Hi, welcome. So glad you're here. Today, I want to talk to you about the seven dimensions of wellness that most people are not aware of. And honestly, most people need a lot of work in a lot of these areas. But you can't address these areas and you can't determine where you need to focus. And you can't understand how not having these areas um, at the level that you need to be able to function effectively. It's really important to have these, but if you don't have them, if you're not aware of them, you can't change it, right? And so awareness is really key. And so I want to share with you what these seven dimensions of wellness are, so you can evaluate where you're at with all of them and determine which one you want to work on next. So let's go ahead and get started. So, seven wellness dimensions. The first one that I want to talk about is physical. Well, when most people think about physical wellness, they think about physical fitness. They think about making sure that they have their strength, right? Um, their weight is at a decent number. But one of the things that most people forget about is their energy, their physical energy. We know about mental energy and the cognitive load that often comes with having to make a lot of decisions, having a lot of responsibilities. Um, and this affects your energy. So I want you right now to take a step back, quiet your mind, stop doing, stop thinking, and start just being right now and ask yourself, how's my energy? Is it where I want it to be? Is it where it used to be? Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. But take a look at that so you know where you stand, because honestly, if you don't have energy, you can't perform at your best. It's going to take you much longer to be able to get to where you want to be. You'll be less likely to engage in activities that interest you. You'll be more disconnected from people. You won't be as engaged at work. So, your energy management is really important. Most people think about time, and it's not about time. What it's really about is the physical exertion, the energy that goes into that duration of time, right? Because it could be an hour where you're just sitting on the couch watching Netflix, or it could be an hour of high intensity exercise. There's a big difference there. Same amount of time, but different level of energy that's needed. So there's the physical. Ask yourself where you're at with that. All right, let's talk about the next one, financial. Now, this is where you need to be clear on what is the minimum amount of income that you need to be able to sustain yourself. Okay, the minimum. Okay, here's the thing, a lot of times people don't know this number, but they are worried about whether or not they're meeting it. That they worry that they might lose their job because they're afraid they won't be able to find another job with the same income level. They sacrifice a lot of things to be able to maintain that level of income. So, for example, they might work more hours, right? Might work more hours because at this job that pays them more demands it, or maybe they think that it does. That's a whole nother topic we can talk about some other time. Um, so I want you to know what's the minimum, but we don't want to stay in the minimum. We want to go above that. And so hopefully you are there, have some savings, have made some investments. A lot of times people work really, really hard to get to a certain level of income. And what they find once they get there is it's not satisfying. They thought that that would be the answer. They thought that by then that they would slow down some and spend more time in their personal life with their family, friends, attending to themselves. But this often isn't the case, unfortunately. So make sure that you have some money, some funds set aside. Uh, fund funds could include travel. It could include um, self care activities like massages. I'm a big proponent on massages. I pretty much get one every Friday as a reward for having accomplished my goals during the week, as a method to address my physical wellness, but it also touches into my mental wellness. Um, and so I make sure that I have a budget for that because it's a non-negotiable for me. I know that when I invest in a massage, I relax, I decompress, I'm more able to show up at my best because I'm not so tense. I don't have a headache because of all the stress, right? So massages are really important. Okay. If you haven't had one before, you're missing out. Go get one. You deserve it. So that's financial. Let's go ahead with vocational. All right. This is your career. Are you where you want to be? And maybe you are where you want to be, but it's not all cut out to be. It's not all that you thought it would be. A lot of times what happens is people keep going to the next level, moving the goalpost. And each time that they get there, a place where they were striving a lot to get to, once they arrive, it's like, oh, is this all there is? Oh my goodness, there's a lot of responsibilities. Oh, I have to work more. I have to make sure that my team is taken care of. A lot more is at stake. I need to make more critical decisions. What if I make a mistake? Can I really handle all this? Am I cut out for this level of responsibility? Am I really a leader? You start to compare yourself. So think about where you are in your career. Sometimes people think that they need to step back for the sake of the other areas, dimensions of wellness. So what ends up happening is they either lean out, check out, meaning you're there, but you're not really mentally there, or burn down, right? They're like, you know what, this is too much. It's coming at a major cost to my health, to my sanity, to my family. And they think that the answer is just to move away from that. That's not the answer. I promise you that's not the answer. It's like a version of escapism, running away from the core problem that led you there in the first place. We need to address that. What else? Okay, here's a good one in regards to your career. Where are you going? Take a step back and ask yourself, are you where you want to be? Is this what you envisioned it would be like to get to this level in your career? You worked so hard to get here. You're still working really hard. Maybe you're working way too much. And it's taking away from your energy, right? The physical dimension of wellness. The relational, which I'll talk about in just a minute. The psychological, right? It's a huge load for you. It takes time away from your loved ones. One thing that I often tell my clients is to think as if you were attending your retirement ceremony and all your colleagues and coworkers and team members and family, and they're there and they're celebrating everything that you did, all the impact that you made. I want you to ask yourself, what would I want them to say that they will remember me as? Right? At the end of the day, do you want them to be able to say, she made a huge impact, not only through her work, but through her leadership? She helped her team have more self-advocacy. She was not a transactional leader, but a transformational leader, an authentic leader, a supportive leader, someone you could always count on, someone who has a lot of integrity and does their work with a lot of pride. It's up to you, because you want to make sure that the end result matches what you're doing day to day. Okay? Very different. You need to make sure that what you do is understand whether it's helping you or hindering you. That's basically how it works. Everything we do, it's either for us or against us, honestly, for the most part, right? It's kind of like eating a chocolate bar. It tastes good, but it's not necessarily good for us, right? And so by making that decision, it's like giving a tally to, this is harmful, it's not helpful, right? I like chocolate, by the way. So nothing against chocolate. It's just moderation, obviously. What else? Are you doing fulfilling work? Are you making an impact as much as you would like? Are you killing yourself? Burning out, burning the midnight oil, overworking, workaholism? Any of that going on? Not good for you. It destroys your life sooner or later. Burnout happens. You don't even see it coming. It's the accumulation of chronic stress that has not been effectively managed. And it piles up. And before you know it, there's a lot of things that are going down the drain. Okay, so that's vocational. All right, we got an environmental. And so you need to look at your surroundings. Smells, right? Like, does it smell good where you're at? Clutter. Is there a lot of mess? And see, if you have a cluttered desk, um, it's kind of like contagious. It affects your mind. It clutters up your mind. And so you want to make sure that your environment is set up the way that is conducive, the way that will inspire you. I had a client who loves art, but she didn't have any art on her walls. And so once she did, she felt so much more excitement in walking into her office and working, because it was a lovely environment. It was a welcoming environment. So check yourself. Are there any things that you need to change? Maybe there's a lot of sound. Okay, maybe you need a sound machine, right? So think about that, because there might be sound that's disruptive, right? Like I know that whenever they do my yard work and mow my lawn, it's loud. And so I put my sound machine on to filter that out so that I don't get distracted. I don't give some of my precious limited energy to that. I put on my earphones, things like that. You have to figure out what are the areas that could use some improvement in your surroundings so you can be happy doing your work, right? Like be in an environment that feels good to you. Obviously, there are some basic ones like, do you live in an area where there's a lot of traffic, right? That adds stress, right? But just take a look at that. Where are some areas that you feel you have some control over that you can change for your benefit? Okay. Alrighty. Okay, relational. It's another dimension of wellness. So this is your relationships. Are they where you want them to be? It's really difficult for high performing, high achieving leaders to be fully present with their loved ones. They're either not there or they're there, but they're not there. Do you know what I mean by that? Physically there, but you're not fully present. Your mind is somewhere else in la la land, or you're thinking about your to-do list or trying to solve a problem. So you're disengaged. And sooner or later, it's going to affect your relationships. I had a client who started to feel like her and her spouse were just roommates. And get home, cross paths, change clothes, eat dinner, watch TV. Everybody's doing their own thing while she goes to work at her desk at home. And the kids go to bed and the spouse is watching TV. And now she's going back to work now that the kids are in bed. And so there's a lot of disconnection there. It can cause a lot of turmoil. You don't want to create that distance between you and your loved ones. It's not just your spouse or your significant other, your partner. It's any children you might have. You see, it doesn't come down to what you tell them. They learn by what you show them. So they're going to pick up your habits. Do you want to teach them that you're supposed to overwork to the point where you exert yourself to the point where you are disconnected from your family, that work comes first before your family? Okay. You don't have to say that. They see it. And then they start doing it when they get older, when they become your age and have their own career. So you want to make sure that you're aware of that. Is there any room for improvement there to feel more connected with your loved ones? Same thing with friends, right? It might get to a point where they stop inviting you to things because you either say, oh, you know what, this week isn't a good week. I have this deadline, or I'm sorry that I missed XYZ. I had to work later. And so they stop reaching out. They don't invite you to places anymore. They don't call you as much, text you as much, or it's maybe surface level. There's a disconnection there. And they could be a source of social support, which is really important when you're feeling really stressed. And then one day it's like, you feel alone. Like, what's going on here? I feel so disconnected from people in my personal life. This could also apply at work, by the way. Conflict between coworkers, managing up, managing down. And so, what is your relationship like with the people in your life? Evaluate that. Okay, now number 6, spiritual. This doesn't just include religion, believing in a God or a higher power. That's one area. But another area is spiritual in terms of finding yourself, knowing what your meaning is, what your purpose is, feeling cool, calm, and collected within yourself. Okay, things like meditation are really helpful. And a lot of times people start to look into the spiritual dimension of wellness once they reach a point of, I'm working so much. All for what? I'm stressing myself out. I'm getting sick more often. I've got backaches, neck aches. And so you want to make sure that that you feel spiritually connected within yourself. It could be nature, right? You don't have to be religious. Spirituality can mean different things to different people, but it's basically an area where you feel grounded, where you feel peace, inner peace, and you feel like you have meaning in your life. Midlife crises, yeah, the people who go through that need to address their spiritual dimension of wellness. All right, and last but not least, my specialty, my area that I think is honestly more important than any of the other areas that I mentioned. Why is that? Because your mind guides your decisions. Your decision to overwork, your decision to not go to the party, your decision to work weekends, work nights. And how do you make these decisions? Well, they're based on your deeply ingrained beliefs, which may be conscious or subconscious, meaning you're intentionally making these decisions, or you're making these decisions, but there's an underlying reason that's guiding that. Make sense? And so it's your thinking. It's also your feeling. A lot of times people come to me saying, I feel like I'm going to explode in front of people. I'm more irritable, more short. I'm not myself anymore. Every little thing seems to irritate me. Sometimes they feel like they don't know how to handle their emotions in the moment when they're faced with something unexpected, especially something challenging, stressful. And so being able to feel in control of your feelings, your thoughts is really important because it affects your behaviors, what you do or don't do, which then affects the results you get or don't. So where are you at with all this? Which one are you acing? Which one is kind of like at a B level and you're like, you know what, that can use some improvement, but I'm okay there. I'm going to go to the C level one or the D level one or F. Hopefully that's not the case, but you could create a goal for each one of these 7 dimensions, but that might be overwhelming depending on the level of difficulty or complexity to be able to achieve the goal in each dimension. So what I would say, here's one more thing. A lot of times high performers go big or don't do it. So, I'm going to run a 10K and I'm going to start training 5 days a week for an hour. And then they don't do it because they're waiting to have that time. So make sure it's realistic for you. It's doable, okay, without judgment, because then you might disappoint yourself if you don't achieve the goal. And it's not because you don't have what it takes. It's just you don't have the time or even energy for it. So pick something, okay? Maybe it's vocational, right? Are you where you want to be in your career? Are you starting to feel checked out? Aren't really in it when you used to be passionate about it? Maybe it's psychological. Maybe you're overthinking things and you procrastinate because you want to make the perfect decision, which doesn't exist, by the way. Um, and so that takes up a whole lot of mental space. And actually, that exhausts you. There's not just physical exertion and exhaustion, there's also mental. And so you don't want to get to the point where you're feeling so exhausted and overwhelmed that you're basically on the verge of burnout. So, and behaviors, right? The behavioral component of psychology is really important because it's the result of how you're thinking and feeling. If you're thinking negatively, if you're thinking, who am I to speak up? Oh my goodness, is my idea good? What if I make the wrong decision? What if I come across as incompetent? Can I really handle this responsibility? Your thoughts affect your emotions, right? You might start to get your sweaty palms, your heart might start beating a little bit faster. You might feel uncomfortable, um, which then affects your decisions. Whatever way you feel based on whatever thought you have, those two combined are going to influence what you do or don't. And so it's really important. So the psychological dimension, I'm telling you, is really critical. Take a look at that. See where there's some area for improvement for you, and make sure you address it. There are several different things that you can do. If you're interested in getting some help with that, you just let me know. Um, that's what I got for you. I really hope that you go through this exercise. You might say, I don't have time for that. You need to make time for that. It's an investment of your time that will pay off sevenfold. Okay. So make sure you do that. If you're unclear where to start, talk to me. I'm really good at being able to see the big picture and see different pieces that come together to help you get to where you want to be. What's holding you back, what can help you, what's hindering you, and help you feel very clear on the direction that you're going in any area that I've mentioned, where you feel like you haven't reached your full potential, that there's more that you could be doing. You're hungry for more. If that's the case, you want some help with that, get in touch with me, send me a message, and we can talk. We'll go from there. All right. Take care of yourself. Be well.